And I was driving up north with my father one day, and I told him the same thing. I said, Dad, I've asked you about this before, but I got to ask you again because people are coming up to me all the time. I said, do you have any idea who this guy is, right, with this last name like yours? And it was like this. I think that's your brother. Hi, Steve.
Rubes, the man, the myth, the legend, the voice of the Octagon. Wonderful to have you on, my friend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. How are you? We met in Australia, and now we're across the world.
Yeah, that's it. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, so had the absolute pleasure of meeting you twice now. Once in LA, once in Sydney. And viewers, listeners, I've got to tell you, this is honestly the most genuine and humble human you will ever meet in your life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, no, truly sent from my heart, Bruce. It's incredible, and it's a real privilege to have you on. So really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure,
Mate. Obviously you are known as the voice of the Octagon, and I think a lot of people out there will just assume, just like us, they say, "Oh my God, Seti, you're so lucky. You've got this product going nuts." What they don't see is the blood, sweat, and tears that's gone on for years and years and years behind the scenes. And knowing your story, I'm sure I'd love to be able to share that with the viewers. There's one that really stuck with me. I think you were 12, maybe 13 years old, and you certainly come from humble beginnings. And from what I heard, that was your turning point where you just something switched for you. You're off skiing, and you went from that moment. Can you tell
the story of my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was 16, and we had just moved from Philadelphia to Malibu when I was 15, and I was just about to be 17. Anyway, it was right around that period, and I was 16 years old, pardon me, and I had to borrow $75. But my friend said, "Listen, we can go to Mammoth, we can go skiing, we have a condo, we have the food, the gas, everything." And this is back in 1972, basically 73, and with that being said, obviously things were a lot less expensive there. So $75 covered the whole trip. But $75 is still a lot of money. And I went to my beautiful little mama and said, I have a chance to go. I don't have the $75. Could I please borrow 75? And she said, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. Not in a position to do that. And I said, that's fine, Mom, no problem. I don't have to go. And then 2 days later, she came up to me and she handed me $75 in cash. And she said, go on your trip, have a great time. Enjoy yourself, but don't tell your father, right? Which is rare that my mother would ever keep anything from my dad, and I couldn't quite understand why. So I went on the trip. I had a great time, came back, and 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my room. I happened to be awake around midnight, and I overheard my parents talking in the living room about how they couldn't pay the rent that month. And even though we were living in Malibu, we weren't rich. We were middle class. We lived in the canyon, but our rent was $575 for the home that we lived in. So my mother loaned me 75, and here they can't even pay the rent of 575. And I immediately got emotional, and I cried to myself and thinking, I'll never let this happen again. I had an entrepreneurial spirit that was taught into me by my dad when we were working together at collectible shows and stuff before that. But this was a big turning point for me. And I told myself that my parents would never have to worry about money. I'd never have to borrow off them or anybody ever again. And I became on a mad mission to start my entrepreneurial spirit and start bringing money into my own pocketbook and there for when and if ever my family need it. And one thing that went on to that, when I was going to these collectible shows with my dad, because he used to trade back and forth collectible firearms and artifacts and things from Civil War up to World War II, which are very popular around the world, I learned how to sell back and forth. I was doing this, on the exhibitor tables my dad was teaching me. And there was a jewelry display nearby where the man was making Hershey and turquoise and coral necklaces and bracelets and earrings, that women would buy, and they were selling like crazy. So I spent a few hours with him, and he taught me how to make bracelets and necklaces and earrings. And I would buy the materials off him, and for $5, I'd create these $5 to $10. I'd create these necklaces that I would sell for anywhere from $35 to $65 at school. And I would go in my display case, and I'd be selling to kids and teachers all over. And I started clearing about $800 a month. Right, which go again, look back in 1974, let's say, and what kind of money that is today for a high school kid. So that was the beginning of the end right there. Well, it's not the end yet. That was the beginning of the current, shall we say.
Yeah, that's the beginning. So moving forward, like at that point you didn't realize that you had a brother, did you? not for a number of years.
No, a number of years. I never knew my legendary brother, Michael Buffer, the Let's Get Ready to Rumble announcer, that if you love boxing, I'm sure most everybody knows, even if you don't. He's the greatest announcer of all time. And I'm watching on TV back in the 80s when Mike Tyson got popular and boxing was the water cooler conversation on a Monday. I would watch, and all of a sudden out came this debonair, late 80s debonair, handsome man, had a whole style that was completely unique. Cary Grant-like style, and his delivery and his magnificent voice and those 5 words he spoke, "Let's get ready to rumble," which got everybody excited when they heard it. And they put on the screen the name Buffer, and I never even knew, that I had a half-brother, because I owned telemarketing companies in my 20s, and I was 28 at this time, give or take, and I had never seen my last name in a phone book, a single phone book in the United States, because we didn't have internet back then. And my salesmen worked off leads, or they worked out of the phone books. And we were selling office supplies, doing completely legally. I was the Wolf of LA, not the Wolf of Wall Street. And made tremendous money doing this, but I never saw my last name in a phone book. So it struck me funny, who was this man named Buffer, suddenly on the screen. And then people would walk up to me and they'd say, "Is that your brother? That man, who says, 'Let's get ready to rumble'?" And I go, "No, my brother's Brian," right? I have no idea who this guy is. So after about 6 months and calling the offices of boxing promoters like Don King and Bob Arum to find out information on him, finding out he grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up in Philadelphia most of my life, up until the age of 15. And I was driving up north with my father one day, and I told him the same thing. I said, "Dad, I've asked you about this before, but I got to ask you again, because people are coming up to me all the time." I said, "Do you have any idea who this guy is, right, with this last name like yours?" And it was like this: "I think that's your brother driving the car." And at 28 years old, that was quite a shocker. And we got together because we were watching a fight at a small venue, and my brother and I had him call the venue, leave his number. Michael called him back. They got together, and it turned out to be his long-lost son, who he hadn't seen since he was 2.5 years old. And they got along famously, and we all got along famously. And 4 years later, living the lifestyle I was living, making the great income I was making with the telemarketing companies and one other company, I was burned out. I wasn't enjoying going to work. And I always tell everybody, find out what you're passionate about and try to monetize it. Then you're not going to work, you're living a lifestyle. So I had this epiphany of becoming Michael's manager and partner and trademarking those 5 words and taking it beyond where it was at that time to make it the most famous phrase in the world. And of course, him richer and famous than he ever dreamed either. And I met with him and I said, "I want to become your manager and business partner, and I'll sell my companies and I'll quit with the money I have in the bank to make this happen." And said, "I'll get you on TV, and we'll do video games and toys and TV shows and all these kind of things that we can do. Trademark it properly so it's protected." And that was over 30 years ago. And I think most sports fans know what's gone on in the last 30 years. And that was just a great poker hand that I played. The second one being how I got myself in the UFC, which is a whole nother story. But that was my first beginning. That was working. And I would go to every event with him, shake hands, take names, make deals. Go to Kinko's and spend $15 a promo kit, copying things individually. Everything was more expensive back then. And going to trade shows with a bunch of them stacked under my arm and pitching people that they needed him to represent them. They needed this phrase to be part of their product. And since then, we've sold in the area of like close to $500 million in retail sales of products that have been licensed with the "Let's Get Ready to Rumble" in his image.
So in your wildest dreams, where would that sit?
In my wildest dream, I knew it would be successful. I just had the foresight to realize, just like I realized the UFC was going to be the biggest thing ever in fighting sports back when it was a spectacle and it wasn't even a organized sport the way it is today. But I knew it would be huge when it was refined. And I knew back then that the trajectory that Michael was on and everything that he could go into was going to be magnificent. So I went forward with total positive attitude and belief in what I was doing.
Yeah, fantastic. And in your eyes, would you say you're really just only starting? Like for us, we're coming up.
Am I ready to what, please?
Are you only just starting? Like you've done half $500 million so far. Like,
well, I see what you're saying. My trademark, it's time, which I say in the UFC. I still, work with Michael's trademark and the whole bit, and I'm still a solid strong. But the trademark, it's time, is building very, very strong with my products and all that I'm doing. And along with still managing his career, I'm focusing on my brand. And that's where a lot of my work goes into, along with my partner, Kristen here. Even to the point where we'll do videos and audios for people that want championship introductions or, birth of babies or special events, or we probably do 5 to 10 or more weddings a week in video and audio when people go right into our website, brucebuffer.com. And, the requests we get are phenomenal. There's all these different areas of business that are being developed.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's where possibly a lot of successful companies, they reach a point and they take the foot off the accelerator. And it's the old saying: if you're not growing, you're dying. And clearly, you're just motivated the whole time, just pushing, pushing, pushing. It's like us. I still think we're in a garage. Yeah, we're now becoming world famous in certain little areas. And yeah, I feel we're only just starting. And so with your brand, it's time. I was really intrigued to know that I assumed your energy drinks and stuff would be manufactured in the States, but they're a UK company, aren't they?
They're a UK company, but we have manufacturing facilities here in the States also and elsewhere.
Sweet, yeah. Well, when I heard it was UK, I was like, wow, that's not what I expected.
So that's with the corporate. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please do go ahead.
No, that's all good. But I was just reaching out to say, what made you choose them? Did they approach you, or how did that deal come about?
I always wanted to have a scent, and they actually approached me for my cologne, which is the It's Time cologne that's been one of the biggest sellers on Amazon in the cologne market when it first came out. And we have a whole line of toiletries aside from that, along with another cologne called Iconic. They approached me on my own scent, and that's how we started getting in business together. And later on, the energy drink came into the fray. So we started with the cologne, body wash products, everything for personal care, because I'm very big on personal care. I think it's very important we take care of ourselves. Girls take care of themselves for us. We should take care of ourselves for them and
We
ourselves.
should take and ourselves. You took the words right out of my mouth on that. And the whole time you're promoting, you've got your nice little UFC jacket on. It's always subtle, but it's always there. You always look classy. It's yeah, always on point. So for people that are looking to start out, whatever adventure it is, whatever be a business or just in life, to better themselves. Do you have any key points?
The first thing I would say is to do your research and make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Have a business plan. If it's a product or a venture, you want to make sure it's attractive to the people that you want to buy it. So try and, if there's other companies out there, because it's very hard to reinvent the wheel. Most things have been done, but find out what you're passionate about. If you can monetize your passion, like I said before, you're not going to work, you're living a lifestyle. And then when you do get hit hard and you do fall down on the canvas, that'll enable you to get up because of your passion even better than ever, to move forward and punch harder than ever, just like Rocky Balboa says, right? And that's, words of wisdom without question. But take a look at 4 companies that are the best in the business. If they're in your business, analyze them, see what they do, and juxtapose it into your own style. Learn from it, right? It's good to learn from others, just like when you would attend, the seminars that we do, and apply it to your own businesses if you can learn the application, right? If it applies. So you want to do a shortcut. If you know great people to work with, take a shortcut so you don't go through those same mistakes yourself. But it's important to make mistakes, and it's important to understand failure, because that way you'll understand success much better.
That's it. It's only a mistake if you keep repeating it. Yeah. Like if you get hit with the right hook, get that right hand up, the left hand up. You've got to be able to adapt, take responsibility. Something goes wrong, to take responsibility, find those leanings and move forward.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely fantastic. My friend, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to have you on. As always, I'm right behind you. Love what you do. Can't wait to get that client coming through. I'm a woody man, so looking forward to it. And yeah, wish you the best, and be great to have you back on.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate it. And again, congratulations to you and all you're doing with Rocket Fuel, because it's an amazing product and you're doing quite a great job yourself. So kudos to you, my friend.
I appreciate that, brother.